Hey there, my friends. This is Bill MacDonald, the Common Sense Math Doctor. Today's video is going to be dedicated for you students and teachers who are in 3rd and 4th grade. I'm going to work on 2 problems with you. One of them is a series of equivalent fractions on a number line from 0 to 1. And so you just have to understand equivalent fractions. That one didn't do too well on the one that was like it in 3rd grade, because it only got 55% correct in May. That means we've got to practice equivalent fractions on a number line. The other one did even worse. It's understanding the relationships between numbers on a table based on the cost of something, how much people give for it, and how much change they receive. And of course, in all of the star questions, there's only supposed to be one correct answer. Sometimes mistakes are made and we might happen to see more than one correct answer or one that looks correct. This is a continuation of the 3rd grade webinar, as you can see there in the upper right hand corner. It's $10 to get all of the problems based on the most difficult questions from the 2019 test. It's going to include, as you see there, the strategies, the full color math posters, the class set of graphical organizers for place value, problem solving checklists, and keywords for operation chart. For those of you that like to kind of follow along, go to my club, and if you type on Facebook Common Sense Math and you're already part of my writing club, but you also teach math, please consider joining my writing club. I would love to do some webinars, some little recordings or video lessons with you and your students. All you have to do is tell me what lesson that you're working on, what TEK and math you're covering, and I will pre-record videos, or I can go live with you, but you just have to tell me the specific video. I do have a special cost. I charge $25 an hour to share my strategies with you and your students. Most of the time we don't need the whole hour, but we can do as many videos as you would like. If you do two 30-minute videos, then of course that would be 1 hour. Think of it that way. But I look forward to helping you. Sometimes it's not the way we're teaching it, it's the way it's being tested that's a problem. Sometimes the way we teach it is the problem and the students aren't getting it. And so I always say there's some kids that are GT, gifted talkers, but they're not gifted readers. They might be ET, not extraterrestrials, but they just need extra time. Or they might be ED, not emotionally disturbed, like where they get angry easy or upset about things, but we just need to explain it differently. So I'm going to show you a way, not necessarily the way, but a way that I would recommend that you solve these problems with your kids. It's going to be 2 problems. Now, the reason I invited you 4th grade teachers is because these 2 problems are what students struggled with at the end of 3rd grade, and they do say readiness. So a readiness problem for a 3rd grader is a supporting problem, a supporting standard for a 4th grader. And so since about 1/3 of the questions on every test are going to be supporting, it's probably important that we review this kind of a question with our kids and do extensions like I'm going to show you how to do today. So let's take a look at the problems and see if we can help students help themselves and make less mistakes when it comes to these 2 types of TEKs. All right. For those of you that have been watching my videos before, we always write the word rules on the left-hand side of the problem. It's just a checklist of things, and it basically stands for the following. This is my mathematics chart that you'll get a copy of as part of the reported webinar, students. We're going to read the question and the problem solo. Sometimes it's okay to read the problem first. Sometimes we should read the question. SOLO stands for softly or loudly, so that you can see, say, hear, listen, think, and write. Are we going to underline and understand the key words? Are we going to look for and label the keywords back in the problem that are going to help us solve it? Should we evaluate, stop and think, what strategy should I use to help me find it? That's going to help you make a plan and execute, not ugly, and eliminate extra information. I have 3 fingers sticking out there. I'm going to eliminate and explain my wrong answers. And then John Travolta had a movie. Select one. So we're going to select one answer and hopefully show the reader, show our teacher why it's correct in the way that we label. We'll double check searching for errors, then bubble in our Scantron all odds will be A, B, C, D on tests in Texas, and all evens will be F, G, H, or J, or we might have a grid response where we have to use a sort of place value chart to answer the question. So that's our rules acronym. So let's take a look. We read, we underlined, and we labeled first. So which 2 equivalent fractions can point X represent? And as you can see, this came from question number 19 on the 3rd grade test. And I don't mean this problem. I made my own problem with a different set of numbers and situations so that your students could test this TEAC student expectation 3.3F, readiness, reporting category 3 in a different way, so that this coming May, we won't have about half of the students in 3rd grade missing it and quite a few kids in 4th grade missing it as well, if they happen to give our 4th grade kids one like this, boys and girls. So if we look and see, it has on the number line a 0 and then the whole number 1 with a couple of blanks. So what we can say is, how many sections is this being divided? Because when you fractions are numerators and denominators, dividends and divisors, dividends divided by divisors. And so basically what we're saying is here, how many sections are we dividing this whole number on the number line into? So let's count. 1, 2, 3 equal sections. So we're dividing line into 3 equal sections. There's 1 of the 3's, 2 of the 3's, and 3 of the 3's. 1/3, 2/3, and 3/3. So I'm going to go to my math posters on page 11. I want to look and see what are some equivalent fractions of 1/3, because that's the one that's being used right now. 2 6, 3 9s, 4 12s, and if you want to keep going for extra credit for extending beyond the problem, 5 15ths and 6 18ths, because depending on what grade level, boys and girls, some kids have to know their equivalent fractions a little bit higher than others. So you can kind of, if you get this, you can fill out this entire chart going up to whatever fraction that your grade level goes to. So let's take a look at what I did then. Because they were only asking about the X, I circled all of the fractions that it came up with using X, and you can see the same numbers that I just showed you on the math posters, equivalent fractions poster, 2 6, 3 9s, 4 12s. One of those has to be there with 1/3. Well, what I'm going to do right away, I'm going to zoom in because these are a little bit small, focus a little bit, because letter H, 1/4 and 2 8s is not even in my list when I circled. I'm going to eliminate that one right away. I do see a 1/3, so let's compare the other number. That's a 1/6. Well, what you do to the denominator times 2 to get 6, you also have to do to the numerator times 2. And since they didn't do that, we're going to eliminate that fraction because that part makes letter F untrue. 1/3 and 2 6. 3 times 2 is 6 on the bottom, And what you do on the bottom, you do on the top. 1 times 2 is 2. That is true. So we can put a question mark. Let's double check that we have those two equivalent fractions in our list. There's the 1/3 and there's the 2/6. Okay, maybe more than 55% of us can get this correct. This next year's test. 1/3 and 3/4. Well, there's no 3/4 anywhere. 3/4 goes with 6/8. We can even look over here and see if we have 3/4. There it is right there. 3/4, 6/8, 9/12. And they weren't asking about that group of equivalent fractions. So you're going to eliminate letter J because of that one. That means that we only have one good answer. I'm going to circle it very tiny here. Put a G on the side. Fill it in. Pretend like I'm bubbling because some of us are very extra ugly on our bubbling too. We'll eliminate our answers here on this side. And so we would go to the Scantron and circle the G. One more thing that I recommend that we do to double check, make sure the 4 in the book has a G in the book so that the 4 in the Scantron has a G that goes with it as well. So that's how I would do the other one, the extra credit. You could also check out these fractions. You can compare 2/3, 2/4, 2/3, and 8/12, extending beyond the problem because they could have asked, this could be, if that's X, you can ask a question, students and teachers, about Y, let's say, for example. Why would you want to do that? That way you could be prepared for 2 different types of fractions, depending on what kind of grade level you guys are in. Let's take a look at the other question. Now, this is an entire paragraph. And so when teachers ask me, students, should I read the question first or the problem? Like, well, the TEKS are based on the question. And since many of us struggle with reading, it's probably a lot better to start with the question. And that way we know, what are they asking us to do, so we can evaluate and make a plan based on the question, not read the problem first and then think about some completely different thing that has nothing to do with the question that's being asked. So let's read the question first. Based on the relationship shown in the table, which statement is true? Okay, so right away I teach my kids, since they said which statement, that's singular. If one of them is true, 3 of them are going to be false. And so we're trying to figure out which is the only one that's true. So what I did here was work out this problem. Sometimes we have to work it out on a separate place, like line paper. You're allowed to ask for line paper in practice tests. And on the real test, all you have to do is raise your hand and say, can I have some notebook paper or some graph paper? And that way you can practice writing your math very neatly. So because this is question number 5, I wanted to show you first what the information that they give us. Some kids went on a carnival ride, went on some carnival rides, and they bought some tickets. Their names are Jeff, Martha, Carmina, and William. The amount that each student gave is listed in the first column of numbers, and the cost of the tickets that they purchased are listed in the second column of numbers. Let's see what extra information they give us in the problem. 4 friends, those kids on the left, went to a carnival, that are title there, and each purchases some tickets, we don't know how many, for the rides. The table shows the amount of money each child paid to the cashier. Okay, I'm going to put all of that in the bracket. The amount of money is the amount given. Okay, we can call that column B. And the total cost of the tickets for each person, I'm going to put a little opening bracket there and a closing bracket there, and we'll call that section C. So here's B and here's C, And so let's see what question they ask us. Let's see if one of these is true. Jeff will receive $38.50 in change because the amount given plus the cost of his tickets equals $38.50. Okay, so the amount given for Jeff, let's take a look. Jeff gave $20 and it said plus the amount given, get the right problem number, plus the cost of the tickets equals $38.50. Well, that's true. $20 plus $18.50, the cost of his tickets, does equal $38.50, but the problem is this: his change is going to be less. You're not going to get more money in change than you paid somebody unless that person doesn't know how to add or subtract. And so think of this little chant: how much change, 3 syllables, how much change you subtract. And so probably students, a lot of the kids that got a question that was like this wrong is because that part was true. Everything was true. The amount given plus the cost of the tickets does equal to $38.50, but he's not going to receive that in change. This part right here makes letter A false. So we've gotten rid of 1. B says Martha will receive $8.25 in change because the amount given minus the cost of the tickets is $8.25. So Martha's is $30 minus $22.75. Let's see if it comes out to $8.25. Letter B. Okay. Martha, $30 is what she gave. $22.75. And I want you to notice many kids struggle with subtracting across zeros. So here's a different way, students, you can look at it. There's 300 here in the, what we're going to call the tens place. That's 300 dimes because $30 and 0 dimes is 300 dimes. And so the amount of dimes, because I'm having to borrow here, that comes before 300 is 299 dimes. So I'm going to borrow a dime basically, and when I borrow a dime, I get 10 pennies. So then I can subtract 10 minus 5 is 5, 9 minus 7 is 2, 9 minus 2 is 7, and 2 minus 2 is nothing or 0. So we have $7.25 left, which is not equal to $8. It's in 25 cents. That's $1 off. So we're going to eliminate this one because it's not a true statement. The amount left over, that makes it untrue. So we would put F for false. Okay. Carmina will receive $2.25 in change because the amount given plus the cost of her tickets plus the cost, did I hear that? Oh, minus the cost of the tickets equals $2.25. So it's important that we check that information. The amount given and the cost of the tickets is $2.25. Let's do the math on Carmina. Carmina gave 15. Subtract how much change you subtract. Let's try our little strategy again. If we have $15, and I have to subtract 5 from nothing. So again, $15 and no dimes is the same thing as 149 dimes. So if 150 dimes, I'm sorry, and if I take away 1 dime, I have 149 dimes left. So I borrow one of those dimes and move it over here. to become 10 pennies. 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 2 is 7. What is that? 4 minus 2 is 2. So $2.75 is my how much change, and that is not equal to 225. $2.75 was how much was left over. Since that didn't match, that's also false. That means that our last one is the one that's true. And perhaps if that's the way it was on the real test, boys and girls, many students are not willing to do 4 different operations like this. So you're gonna have to build up your endurance. Teachers help them to build and say, okay, today we're just gonna work on A together. Tomorrow we'll work on B and C. And we'll do it as a class or in groups. And then D, the one that's correct, we can work on it with a partner or by ourselves if we're ready. So William is going to receive $3.01 in change because the amount given minus the cost of his tickets is $3.01. So he gave 25. So 25 minus 21.99. Let's see how that looks set up. $25. And again, I have to subtract 9 from nothing. So I've got to do that same concept. Think of it like this, that $25 with 0 dimes is the same thing as 250 dimes. So if I borrow a dime, 250 becomes 249, the number before it. Instead of doing all that extra borrowing and regrouping, this saved my students a lot of problems and they made a lot less mistakes. And so if I borrow 1 dime and bring it over here to the 100th place, I get 1 group of 10 dimes. 10 take away 9 is 1. 9 take away 9. 9 subtract 9 from 9. We get 0. We can line up our decimals. I want you to notice that's what I had done on some of the other ones. It's probably a great idea to make sure that you're subtracting and adding correctly by doing what I call a highway of decimals. And then we have our answer. $3.01 is left. And so $3.01 does match $3.01, which is what was given. And so think of your left shoe, $3.01 being what we did, and the right shoe, $3.01, which is what they told us. So the answer is $3.01 in change. How much change you subtract, that makes it true. And so even though that took a lot of work, D is the one we're going to circle and put a D next to. We're going to eliminate A, B, and C. Bubble it in to practice our bubbling. Place a D right next to number 5 so that our D in the book can match our D in the Scantron. So there you have it, students and teachers. Feel free to tell your teacher your favorite strategy. I would suggest you practice, teachers, a couple of extra problems, borrowing using money, but borrowing across multiple zeros, because your students either miss the problem. Half of them in Texas miss the problem because they don't know how to subtract across zeros, doing all that extra work, or they don't have the endurance to work through all 4 problems if the correct answer happens to be D for odd numbers or J for even numbers. So God bless you guys. Feel free to email me, teachers, or message me if you have any questions, or if you need some videos on some other strategies, and I'd be happy to help you guys. Other than that, you guys have a great day.